Shalom, friends. I was reading the definition of shalom, and I feel like I just want to go over it with you guys because it's very rich and I think very appropriate. So it's to be safe, sound, healthy, complete, signifies a sense of well-being and harmony both within and without. Completeness, wholeness, peace, health, welfare, safety, soundness, tranquility, prosperity, fullness, rest, harmony. The absence of agitation or discord, a state of calm without anxiety or stress. Shalom. Shalom to you. So today I am going to share birth story number 10, which is Moshe. So Moshe is my second VBAC, vaginal birth after cesarean. So I think it's kind of funny that Aaron and I, we don't use any birth control, and we have a lot of children, comparatively speaking. So I should kind of, I don't know, have it in my mind that I might be pregnant, but I don't think about that. I'm just busy with everyday life, and so it doesn't occur to me that maybe there's a little baby in the belly. So that was the case again with Moshe. And before I knew I was pregnant, I started having a face rash, which was embarrassing. And it was, itchy and dry and uncomfortable. And that happened basically as soon as I got pregnant. And I thought maybe I'm allergic to something that I'm putting in my body. So I tried cutting out foods that typically people would be allergic to. So I don't eat wheat anyways, so I didn't have to cut that out, but I cut out dairy, and I still had this really horrible face rash. And then I cut out nuts, and I still had it. And I don't know if I cut anything else out. Like, I know I didn't have strawberries and chocolate, because those are things that people might be allergic to. I also tried including more omega-3 in my diet, because I thought maybe I need more omega-3. So I was eating sardines and eggs, and it was so yummy. I would have that every morning, and it wouldn't help. So I did not really know why it was happening, but of course in time I realized that I was pregnant. And then I also realized when I became pregnant was when this face rash was starting. And so I thought, well, that must be the reason why. So it calmed down in my face, thankfully. That was like, I feel like that was like a little gift from God. So after it calmed down in my face, this rash that I had, it started to spread a little bit. Like, it would go to my neck, and then it was spreading to my shoulders and my arms. So this was like the beginning of something, like the beginning of a difficult trial for me. That's what it was. So I'm looking at my notes. I took a few notes. shortly after I found out that I was pregnant with Moshe, I call him Moshe sometimes, and Aaron and the children call him Moose or Moosey sometimes, because he's a big boy. Well, then I experienced some vaginal bleeding, and of course that's not a good sign. And I have had that experience I've had that with 2 of my pregnancies that I can recall, and in the end everything was okay, and so I wasn't freaking out or anything. But of course, I told Aaron, and I kind of feel like this cautious feeling coming over me, like, okay, well, gotta keep an eye on things. So I ended up having a total of 3 episodes of vaginal bleeding, and this was within the first trimester. So that was very concerning. I did get an ultrasound done, and I spoke to one of my midwives, and so she told me that I have placenta abrevia, I believe. And so it was like the placenta wasn't completely attached to the uterine wall, and they could see like a blotchy area where there was blood. And so they told me that, of course they're going to keep an eye on it and do another ultrasound soon. And in time, the area where the placenta was not attached to the uterine wall, and there was just like a dark area that signified blood there, it got smaller and eventually went away. So that was no small thing. It was unclear to me if I had what's called placenta abrevia, or if I had what's called placenta abruption, which would have been like a higher risk for the baby. I think I had a placenta abrevia, but the midwife, she didn't really describe it properly to me. Anyhow, I also looked over my notes that I received, because I can look into my lab results and I can look at the notes online that the technician takes as they are going through my ultrasound. And in there, during the first ultrasound that they did, she wrote in there that I am at high risk for miscarriage. And so that was pretty upsetting to me when I read that. They basically told me, the midwife told me, she didn't say I was at high risk, she said it can go either way. And so the way that I understood it was it's kind of like a 50-50 chance. But we prayed about it, of course, and we also had some people praying with us. And so that went away, and everything, there was no concern. So that was, of course we were just, that whole time, just looking to God to take care of this baby and to take care of me, and just knowing that we need to put our trust in Him. So, yeah, He came through. And I think it's important to say that, whether I would have miscarried or not, the thing is that if something bad happens, we believe that God is in control and that He has allowed it to happen, and so we can't just give up on him because things don't go the way that we expect them to. So that's that. So, I had to get ultrasounds throughout this pregnancy for that reason, but aside from that, they wanted to monitor me because I was of advanced maternal age. I was only 34 at the time. I just turned 38, so 34 sounds pretty young. And I was going to be 35 when the baby would be born. And so I had AMA next to my name. And so when a mom is classified as advanced maternal age, she has to be monitored more because they're more concerned about problems with the baby. And so I had to get more ultrasounds. I probably had to get more labs because of that, some blood labs. I believe that classifying a mom as AMA and everything that comes with that, it doesn't do anything good for mom and baby, but it actually is the opposite in that even, I mean, I don't think it's intentional, but like you tell the mom, well, you're advanced maternal age, we need to monitor you more now. So mom now has like this new worry in her mind and on her heart. And any kind of stress is not good, first of all, for anybody's health in general. And it's certainly not good for a pregnant mom to be stressed out and for the health of her baby. And so just telling a mom, oh, you're 34, but you're going to be 35. Like for me, I wasn't going to be more stressed out. But that's a choice that I make. And I don't like having ultrasounds for my babies, and I don't think that it is good for them. I think that it could be I think that there could be negative health effects to that. And what do we know? We're told, oh, these health problems that your baby is experiencing is typical, and this is what every baby experiences. But how do we know any different? Because we don't have anybody to compare them to that hasn't had an ultrasound. So for me and Aaron, our preference is to avoid any kind of medical procedures that we feel aren't necessary. So I had to get more with him just because that's the way it is. I see midwives, but the midwives they work underneath the doctor, then the doctors work for the hospital. Hospitals have particular routines and protocols. So yeah, that irritates me when I think about the whole situation and how like moms and babies are set up for failure right from the beginning. So this pregnancy was not anything like my other pregnancies. Usually I say, well, my pregnancy was really smooth and easy and nothing really to talk about. But this one with Moshe, I had this skin rash that it was spreading throughout my whole body, and it was really hard to handle, to just deal with every day, every minute of the day. So I realized that I did so much reading on skin conditions and skin conditions for pregnant moms, and I ended up diagnosing myself and then talking to my midwives about it. And I was kind of frustrated that they didn't tell me that there's certain skin conditions and that it seems that I have these problems, but I had to figure it out on my own. So I had PUPS, P-U-P-P-S, and I don't even remember what that stands for. But basically what that is your belly gets a rash all over it, and you're red and you're itchy. And so I had that, and I got it a lot sooner than moms normally get it. I had that for my whole pregnancy, basically, just not in the very beginning. Probably like at month 3 I probably got it. So I had PUPS, and then I realized that I had something called cholestasis, and they say ICP for short. And then I also had another rash that didn't seem to fall into those 2 particular ones, and I'm trying to think of what it was classified as. It basically was just a general, it was like a catch-all name, like that it just applied to any kind of a rash that a pregnant mom would get, any kind of like eczema. So I had it all. There was no other name they could put on my chart. And so that was really hard. I almost don't even know like where to start with that or what to say about it. I remember one time sitting at the table, and we were eating dinner, and it kind of started, the rash, it started at the top of my head and then it worked its way down to my feet. And so I was scratching my back, I think, and one of my sons asked me if I had it on my legs, and I said no. I said that I would not be able to handle it if it were on my legs as well. And Aaron looked at me and he said, well, you don't know if you would be able to handle it unless you were put in that situation. And I said, yeah. So shortly after that, the rash started to spread to my legs, and it covered practically my entire body. I was spared in very few areas. I was thankful for those areas that I was spared in. So when I became pregnant with my first baby, Josiah, I remember my manager telling me a word of wisdom, and it didn't really mean a whole lot to me at the time, but during this pregnancy it was something that I contemplated pretty regularly. And he said to me when he found out that I was expecting, he said, Theresa, don't be a whiner. And he said, you're not a whiner, Theresa, are you? And I said, no, I'm not a whiner. So that was something that, like, it really struck me, like, during this time when I was going through torture that I should not whine. And so I had to really just make a decision that I was not going to whine and complain and make everybody feel sorry for me and draw attention to myself. And so I did not do it perfectly, I know that, but it was something that I was purposeful to avoid whining. And I think that piece of advice, like, I really do appreciate it. I mean, it's something so simple, but who wants to be around somebody who's whining for 9 months long and complaining and trying to get people to feel sorry for themselves? And I do see people behave that way when they're pregnant, and I just think that that's something that everybody should hear. So Aaron and I, we talked to some, I guess he's a specialist. He's the doctor you go see when you have problems at the hospital. And we talked to him about my skin, and I told my midwife that I want to get my blood levels tested because I think I have cholestasis. And so we checked my bile acid levels, and they were elevated. And so we talked to the doctor, and me and Aaron, we went together, and I brought a bunch of paperwork because I felt like I didn't know if I'm going to have to try and convince him that I have this problem here, because my midwife told me that I don't have it, even though the numbers of my bile acid levels told me that I did. So it was beneficial for us to speak to the doctor and just get whatever information we needed to get from him. And I am certain that Aaron will speak on that a little bit more. He gave me a prescription for I believe it was called Ursidile, and I took it for probably a day, and then Aaron and I, we talked about it, and I decided to stop taking it. And so basically the doctor said that sometimes this helps with mom's skin rashes. We don't know why it does, but it does. And so that's what they give to moms. And so Aaron will talk a little bit more about that, I think. And so we felt like it was in the best interest of the baby if I didn't take it, and myself as well, actually. So I got through my pregnancy, and this was the first one that it was dragging for me, because I had this, I mean, I don't even know what to say about it, this horrible rash that it kept me up. It took me hours to fall asleep at night. When I fell asleep, my sleep was very broken. I was scratching my skin. I'd scratch my skin until I bled, and so that was all over my body. So I believed that this was not going away until the baby came out of me. And I believe that because of what I have read from mom's experiences, and also reading about cholestasis, just medical literature. Also, I did not mention when I was expecting Rennie, and Rennie is number 8. I did have some rash with him. It was mostly in my face, and to me, I felt like it was pretty bad, and it actually was. I remember my midwife, she would say to me whenever I would go in there, like, why is your face red? And then she made a note of it. So it was noticeable. But anyhow, the point to that is that once I had Rennie, within 2 days my face rash, it was completely gone. And so to me, just looking at that experience made me really confident that once I had this baby, that the rash will be gone. But I had to get through it until then. And so that was really really hard. Sometimes it was just like my emotions were overwhelmed and I would just cry to Aaron about it. So there's this scripture which, like, everybody who goes to church knows. Not everybody, but so Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that God has called according to his purpose, to those that love God and are called according to his purpose. And so I contemplated that scripture daily, that the scripture says that God is going to work this for my good. This situation, I love God and I am called according to his purpose. And how in the world is this going to work for my good? And it was really hard for me to come up with answers. Not that it was really for me to do that. I mean, the scripture is true whether I can come up with a reason how it could be for my good, or whether I can't come up with that reason. So that was very meaningful for me to meditate on that scripture for my whole pregnancy. So Moshe, like, other than that, my pregnancy was fine. I mean, it was just that I was always itchy and uncomfortable. They wanted to have him come out before 40 weeks. So they say when somebody has ICP that there's more of a danger for the baby to be in the belly at the very end of the pregnancy. I don't know exactly, like, if it has to do with, like, toxins in the blood or a high bile acid level, because that's, like, the indicator that you have ICP is your bile acids are high. So I had to get induced with him, and because I had a C-section, they don't induce their usual way. So they told me that I'm gonna have to come in the night before they expect for me to deliver, and so we'll have to schedule a time, and that they're going to insert a balloon intravaginally, and then what they do is they fill it up with a little bit of water, I believe. And so what that does is it puts pressure on the uterus, and it causes the body to in time, like, go into contractions. But it takes like all night long for that to, I mean, really get started. It took a while, I think, for me. Anyhow, when I found out that I had to do that, I was just, like, in a foul mood. I don't like being in the hospital, and I try to stay at home as long as possible during my contractions. So then I'm just in the hospital to deliver the baby, and then like the minimum amount of time that I have to be there with the baby, then I leave. And so to know that I have to go there before I'm even in labor, I felt like really cranky about that. And Erin mentioned it, and I did forget to mention it in my last video, that so with number 8, Rennie, I was gonna go into the birthing center, and it's like a glorified hospital room where you have a king-size bed and a little kitchen of your own and your own bathroom, and it's like a little apartment building. And I was looking forward to delivering Rennie at the birthing center, and because I had to have an emergency C-section with him, that was out the window. And then when I was pregnant with the baby after Rennie, which was Sophia, I was told that I cannot birth her, and I can't have her in the birthing center because I had a C-section, and so now I'm a VBAC patient, vaginal birth after cesarean. And so I had to go up into the regular labor and delivery room. And so that was a big disappointment for me. And so again, with this pregnancy, with this delivery, I couldn't go into the birthing center. And I felt fine with that, but I just didn't want to be at the hospital longer than I needed to. Alright, so the way that they were going to induce me, I just thought, like, it just sounds lovely. And so it took me a while, really, to just get my heart into a position where I felt like ready to go to the hospital and have the baby. So I went as late as I could get scheduled to go in the pregnancy. They wanted me to go, like, I think it was between 36 and 38 weeks. I don't remember what it was, honestly, now. I went in as late as I can go, and it was probably like 38 weeks. So the whole induction thing, it wasn't as uncomfortable as I thought it was going to be. It really wasn't that bad, but it took a while for my body to start having contractions, and I don't know, I think it was like they had to, I don't even know. I think they gave me the Pitocin. They gave me Pitocin, so I think it was the Cervidil that they could not do with me, and that's to thin the cervix. So by morning time, so Erin was home with the kids, of course, because that is what is going to be best for me. For me to know that Erin is home with the children, rather than somebody else, I'm most at peace then. So I spent the night at the hospital by myself, and Erin came like late morning, and he came, I mean, he probably came, I don't even know when he came exactly, what time, not that it matters really, but he came, I think, when contractions were just like starting to get a little bit heavier. And he had some food, thankfully, because the hospital wasn't feeding me. So he snuck some food to me, which, it's really too bad that like the hospitals let moms go such a long time without eating. I came there in the evening time, and so I was there all evening and all night long, and then like all morning long. And of course I didn't sleep, just like a tiny little dozing off here and there. So I needed to eat some food in order to have some energy and feel like I can get through this really difficult part that's coming up. Otherwise, I don't know that I would have been able to do it. So the nurse, she kept rearranging the monitors on my belly, and she would tell me that they keep on sliding around. I have like this really round belly. How do you expect the monitors to stay in one place? And she would tell me that they can't give me more Pitocin to increase my contractions until they can monitor me for a half an hour or something like that. So I remember at one point I was sitting on the birthing ball, going back and forth, you know, from side to side, just relaxing. That also helps when you're moving your pelvis area to help shimmy the baby down more. And Aaron was playing some worship music on his phone, and so that was just like a time that I treasured, because I was able to just, you know, listen to the worship music and just be quiet in my soul, and just to, you know, worship God with my heart, and also have peace at that time when I was going through contractions, which is a difficult thing to go through. And it doesn't matter how many babies you've had in the past, it doesn't make each contraction less painful. So that was, I feel like that was a gift from God for me to be able to worship Him, and in return just feel like I had this joy and this shalom. I mentioned to Aaron at one point during that time, because in between the contractions I started to doze off, and I said I might fall off the ball because I was really tired, and he told me that he's watching me to make sure I don't fall off the ball. So towards the end, it was really hard on me. I had this time where I felt like my senses were so overwhelmed. I told Aaron I don't know what to do with myself, and I was almost like, I was just like exasperated, and I was feeling very nauseous, like I was going to throw up any second. And then I was also feeling very itchy, like I felt like I could just scratch all of my skin off, like all over my whole body. And then on top of that, I was going through these really difficult contractions because I was towards the end. So that was a really hard thing for me to go through. And you know, I just, whenever I'm in those kinds of moments, I just say, God help me, God help me, God help me. You know, and I just ask Him over and over again, and of course He does. So I think that for me personally, going through labor is a time where I am more dependent upon God to get me through that. And so, you know, I'm just really looking to Him, and like in this state of continual prayer in my heart. And so I feel like labor and delivery, like it's a spiritual experience, and so it's a special thing. So towards the end of my labor, the midwife that I had she said to me, well, why don't you go see if you have to use the bathroom? And I actually thought about it for a few moments, and I felt like this was a really difficult decision to make, because I thought, like, in my mind I'm thinking, okay, well, if I have to go number 2 and I'm trying to push the baby out, I might not try and push the baby out because I don't want to go to the bathroom on the bed. So I decided that I will go use the bathroom. But when I look back on it, I realized that at that time, like, it was time for me to push the baby out. I could actually, like, in some kind of way remember that I was feeling the sensation excuse me, of the baby going through the vaginal canal, and so it was time for me to push the baby out. But it's hard to gather all of your thoughts when you are in heavy labor, and so I did the best that I could do to think clearly and decided, okay, well, I'll sit on the toilet. So I told Aaron when the next contraction is over that I'll be ready to go, and so he helped me up, and it was really hard to get up and hard to walk over to the toilet. And the midwife said to me when she saw how difficult it was for me to get out of bed that she knew it was time for the baby to come. So she got her gloves on and got ready, and as soon as I sat on the toilet, I knew that the baby's coming out like any second. And I said, "Get over here!" And the midwife came, and the labor and delivery nurse came, and I leaned back, and on the toilet there is like the pipe that goes up, and so I was leaning back on the pipe, and then the toilet seat, it had the opening in the front, and so Moshe just like gushed out of me so fast. Like I couldn't hold him in if I wanted to. It was something I've never experienced before. I've always had to push the baby out, and this time I did like no pushing. So the midwife, she grabbed onto the baby and guided him into her arms, and then she put the baby up on my chest, and Aaron, he was like supporting my back, and he was also holding onto the baby, and I made it a point to tell Aaron not to let me go and not to let the baby go, because once I deliver a baby, I feel like all of my energy that I was using to go through all the contractions, getting through the contractions and then getting through delivery, like, it is spent. I'm in the negative, and so I'm exhausted, and so he's holding onto the baby for me and holding onto my back to support me. And so that was fascinating, that whole experience, and I think that is kind of funny that I had him on the toilet. I think that if I was a newer mom, I might feel like it's weird that I had him on the toilet, but I don't feel like it's weird. I just think it's funny. So I was fine. He was fine. Like, he was healthy, great. And I too, I felt great. Usually that's the case for me. I feel excellent after I have a baby. Like, I'm ready to get on with life now. So we stayed in the hospital until they allowed us to leave. Yep, until they allowed us to leave, because that's the way it is at hospitals here. And in particular, your children, I feel like whenever I leave the hospital with a baby, I feel like a bit of relief, because I'm aware that hospitals, they have this power to keep children away from their parents. So it's too bad. I because I think they abuse that power. And I think they do more harm to families than they do good. So we came home and I still had my rash, and it was clear that it was not going to go away. And so I ended up taking some oral steroids, and that just helped me enough to, like, it just took the edge off of my itchiness. It didn't actually help me, but I feel like I needed that time to gather my thoughts and consider the situation I'm in, and to accept this trial that I was going through again, because I accepted that I was enduring this trial, this torturous trial. It was torturous. I accepted that I was enduring it for the duration of my pregnancy, but I expected it to be done after I had the baby. And so when I realized that I still had to suffer with this itchiness and rash over my whole body, I had to get my heart into a place where I could, live one day at a time and not be a complainer, and just look to God for my hope, and just accept what trial comes my way. So I did end up seeing a dermatologist, and the woman, she just gave me a prescription for steroid cream, and I knew that that wasn't going to help me. And I do feel like, in a way, though, it was beneficial for me to go see her, because it confirmed to me that, doctors don't know as much as we are taught to believe they know, and they don't heal, and they are not, they have to earn my trust. I'm not just going to give my health into their hands. I'm going to do whatever research I need to do myself, and I'm also going to make decisions to live a healthy lifestyle as best as it is possible for me to do so. And a lot of that for us comes through eating. Like, we don't eat much sugar, we don't eat any gluten or any wheat, we don't eat processed foods, we don't have like juice or sodas or anything like that. Also, we turn off our Wi-Fi as much as possible, and we don't have a smart meter on our house, and we just try to have a clean environment. So that leads me to my realization that Moshe, being pregnant with Moshe, is not what caused my rash that I was enduring. And it's really hard to describe this. Like, it was a really horrible, it was over almost my entire body. I would say 90% of my body was covered in rash, and so I was red and dry, and I itched like crazy, and I would itch until I would bleed, and so I was constantly bleeding and had scrapes all over me. But I realized that it's not because I became pregnant with Moshe that I had this rash, but that he was actually, so to say, the straw that broke the camel's back. in that my body had toxins in the blood, and my body was trying to protect the baby in my belly by not allowing the toxins get to him, which is a really amazing thing, because when moms are pregnant, our bodies actually send our toxins to our baby in the belly. Like, I have heard a doctor saying, like, if a mom wants to detoxify, the best way to do that is to actually get pregnant, because the baby, you know, of course suffers, but the baby ends up getting a lot of mom's toxins. So my body was getting rid of toxins through the skin, which is a common thing. Like skin rashes many times is a result of our bodies getting rid of toxins. So that was a freeing idea for me, to realize that this baby was not the cause of my suffering, but he was just the straw that broke the camel's back, and that it was a problem I already had. I had toxins in my blood. And I think too, like, you know, I talk about, like, we try and like turn off our Wi-Fi and not have smart meters. So, like, you know, we're surrounded by toxins, but another thing is I have metal in my mouth, like metal fillings, and I think that too is a problem. But there's many different things, like 5G penetrates our skin, and that can cause rash on our skin as well. So I gave that over to God, and in time my rash did slow down, and it did go away a little at a time. I would say it went away for about 2 seconds, and then it started to come back just a little. I mean, like, I say a little bit, like, compared to what I used to have. I have it a bit on my wrists and my neck a little bit, but I had it on my whole body. So I'm still, like, working on detoxifying my blood and strength and supporting my liver with herbal teas. So I'm happy about that. And so I just wanted to share something. Like, I've had the suggestion that maybe I shouldn't have any more children because my pregnancy was so difficult with Moshe. And that is a charge that God has placed on my life, to surrender the number of children that I want or don't want, or whatever you would say, and just let him choose. And so I have chosen to surrender my will to God's will and follow what he wants. And I say I, but of course it's Aaron as well, and this is a decision that we made together, and it's a decision that we both feel like, you know, God has made it very clear to us that we are to just have the number of kids that he chooses and the time that he chooses them. And so I'm not gonna just say, well, sorry God, I was obedient for a long time and it got too hard, so now I'm not gonna be anymore. Also, I feel like when someone says something like, well, your pregnancy was difficult, so maybe you shouldn't have any more, that's saying that the child's life is not worth the trouble that the pregnancy may bring. And I just can't accept that. And it's not only any child, but it's my child. And so I think my child is pretty important and pretty special. So I am willing to go through some suffering for my child to have life on this earth, and also to be in obedience with God, because I would rather know that I'm walking in obedience to God and have a difficult path to walk than to walk in disobedience and be walking a path that is easier. I wanted to read something. It's from C.S. Lewis, That Hideous Strength. I read this a long time ago and it really spoke to me. And so I'm just going to read a paragraph from it. It's two characters talking to each other, Merlin, and then also the director, and his name is Ransom. And Merlin sees a specific woman for the first time, and he says, "Sir, you have in your house the falsest lady of any at this time alive." "Sir, you are mistaken. She is doubtless, like all of us, a sinner, but the woman is chaste." "Sir," said Merlin, "know well that she has done in Lograce," that's the planet, "a thing," or I don't know, country or something. "Know well that she has done in Lograce a thing of which no less sorrow shall come than came of the stroke that Balinus struck. For, sir, it was the purpose of God that she and her Lord should between them have begotten a child, by whom the enemies should have been put out of Lograce for 1,000 years. She is but lately married," said Ransom. "The child may yet be born." "Sir," said Merlin, "be assured that the child will never be born, for the hour of its begetting is past. Of their own will they are barren. I did not know till now that the usages of Salva were so common among you. For 100 generations in 2 lines the begetting of this child was prepared, and unless God should rip up the work of time, such seed in such an hour in such a land shall never be again." So to me that just speaks about how special each person is that is born, and how we each and every one of us, we have a destiny that God has prepared for us ahead of time. And so he has a purpose and a destiny for my Moshe, and so I am just, grateful that I could be a part of that. So Moshe is now 2.5 years old, and he is a cute little guy. He's super sweet, and he's potty training now, and he's doing really great, and we're super proud of him. And I think about something that I mentioned in our first video that Aaron and I did a long time ago to our channel. In the book about, it's like a biography on the Von Trapp family, the Sound of Music family. So Marie Von Trapp, she says when somebody scolded her that she's not rich anymore, she's poor, Marie Von Trapp went on to say that they are not poor, they just don't have a lot of money. And I feel like that is the case for our family. Like, in a way, it's good we don't have a lot of money, because the scriptures make it clear that it's difficult for people to be true followers of Yahushua, of Jesus, if they do have riches, because their heart is dragged away by those riches. So, yeah, riches meaning, money and whatever comes with that. So we are rich in life, not necessarily with money, but that's not how we gauge our richness. just think about how it's difficult for people in this day and age that we live in, truly, to have children. So many people struggle having children. And Aaron and I, we have been blessed with numerous children. And I also think about how, and then also not only that, but like if people can have children, they choose not to have children. And I just feel like I am rich because of all the children that I have and that Aaron have together. And I think about in this particular time where people are told that they cannot congregate with more than 10 people, I think about how we have more than 10 people in our household all the time, and how we have a very unique gift and a special gift that most people don't have at this time. So, you know, his ways are not our ways, and I could say that I'm thankful for that, because I can't have even imagined to have a large family. I couldn't have even imagined it, because it's not something that I see in my day-to-day life. So that is all, I guess. I hope that there's something in this video that has been helpful or useful or has been meaningful in some kind of way to even one person out there, because that's why I made this video, just for you. So Aaron and I, we will get together. Aaron, of course, he will speak about Moshe's birth, and I think he probably has some good things to say. And we're going to get together and make a video to close out this series. And I think that we'll do that very soon, and I know that that's something that we're both looking forward to doing. So until then, shalom, friends.